All right, man, peace. So the Philadelphia 76ers are commonly viewed as being the Eastern Conference team that may have the most growth potential. Now, of course, we know the Boston Celtics, they pretty much overcame their potential barriers in this year's playoffs. So now their expectations for next season are going to be that they're going to get to the finals. But the Philadelphia 76ers are viewed as the team that has the most potential for growth, and they seem to believe so as well. Because according to many reports, not only are they going to try to sign LeBron James, but they're also going to try to trade for Mr. Kawhi Leonard. So, of course, they're going to talk about it, and I'm going to chime in.
The Sixers are in off-season mode and poised to make a run at some big names this summer, and it could include the Spurs' top asset, Kawhi Leonard. Now, according to Philly.com, Phillies expressed interest in trading for the 2014 NBA Finals MVP. The Celtics, another team in the East with impressive young talent, have also been speculated as a possible landing spot for Kawhi.
I need to know who the Philadelphia 76ers are going to trade to get Kawhi for, though. I mean, to me, I think that it makes far more sense to just sign LeBron and sign Paul George rather than try to trade for Kawhi. I mean, who are they going to trade to get back Kawhi Leonard? That's not quite making sense to me. But then again, this story came out before the Brian Colangelo story broke. So maybe Brian Colangelo was thinking that maybe we can trade Joel Embiid for Kawhi Leonard because, as has been revealed by many of his texts from his burner accounts, he's not the biggest fan of Joel Embiid. So who knows what this story was really trying to say.
They also interested in signing King James this summer when he hits the free agent market. Max,
yep.
Should Celtics GM Danny Ainge be fazed by the Sixers' interest in Kawhi?
Not at all. Because if Kawhi's injury means he's going to be a diminished player, why should Danny Ainge even sweat it?
Well, that's a rather huge assumption, Mr. Max Kellerman. One would think that before the Philadelphia 76ers were to trade for Kawhi Leonard, of course, he's going to have to pass a battery of tests. So they would expect him to be commensurate with the player that he was while he was with the San Antonio Spurs, and he's not even 30 yet. I believe the brother's only about 26 or 27. So that's a rather assumptive stance that you're taking. Pretty much a straw man argument.
And if not, if the belief is around the league, no, Kawhi is going to be going back to Kawhi, sure enough. Well, in that case, the Sixers don't have any way to acquire Kawhi Leonard in a trade. What are they going to get?
Now, that's the far better point. That's the far better point. What do the Sixers have to trade for Kawhi Leonard? I don't see it. Unless, as I stated, Brian Colangelo was thinking about trading Joel Embiid for Kawhi. Once again, this segment was on a First Take show that appeared before the news broke about Brian Colangelo and his 15 burner accounts on Twitter. And it seemed like every account he was slamming his players, especially Joel Embiid. And as we know, Joel Embiid has a huge contract. So was he thinking about packaging Joel Embiid for Kawhi Leonard? That's the question. Once again, to me, it makes far more sense to try to sign LeBron and Paul George, but who knows what their cap situation is like.
Going to give up the Celtics because Danny Ainge, like, who's the GM of your team? You like him? Danny Ainge is better than that guy. Danny Ainge is so. Think about the tradable assets that the Celtics have. The Celtics are better positioned to trade for Kawhi or any player in basketball than the Sixers are or any team in basketball. Think of the tradable assets. We just mentioned Kyrie. What if the Celtics make the finals and give either Houston or Golden State a run in the finals without Kyrie? Well, then apparently they don't necessarily need him, especially if they get Gordon Hayward back and a superstar in trade.
Well, we know in the aftermath of the Eastern Conference Finals, the Celtics not only were not able to get to the finals, but it drastically was apparent in Game 7 that they needed that closer, that finisher. So they do need Kyrie. But as Max Kellerman is stating, they do have a lot of commodities to be traded. They have a Jaylen Brown, possibly even a Jason Tatum if they're that desperate to get Kawhi, who can be moved. They also have an Al Horford, who's a great utility big man that I'm sure Greg Popovich feels like he can do a lot with. They also have a first-round draft pick. So the Celtics do have a lot of cards to be shuffled. Philadelphia, they just don't. I mean, what are they going to package for Kawhi Leonard? Were they thinking about sending Joel Embiid, Markelle Fultz, and a first-round draft pick, if they even have one? I'm not even sure if they have a first-round draft pick.
Or what about, like, let's leave Horford out of this. He's a rim defender. He does some things no one else can do on the team. But how about these forwards? Tatum, Brown, Gordon Hayward. Hayward is signed up for several more seasons, and he's kind of a Kawhi approximation. Not as good as Kawhi, but a responsible, consistent defender.
Nowhere near as good as Kawhi. Gordon Hayward is about 65 to 70% of the player that Kawhi Leonard is when they're both fully healthy.
Doesn't need the ball on offense, yet he's an excellent offensive player, gets out in transition, etc., etc. What about the fact that, forget about players, Rozier, Smart, these guys, how about first-round picks? Stephen A., not only do they have their own first-round pick this year and for the foreseeable future, they have between Sacramento, the Lakers, Memphis, and the Clippers, they have some combination of other first-round picks in 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021. It is, I think, 22 also. They're warped.
Yeah, this dude, Danny Ainge, he's like the guy who has the most extensive baseball card collection on the planet Earth. Like this guy. They definitely have more than enough commodities to be used to bring in big-name players if he so chooses.
War chest is ridiculous. So Ainge don't have to sweat a damn thing. Any player, any other team wants in basketball, if we're talking about a trade, Danny Ainge is in a better position to pull the trigger on a deal that will actually land them than any other team.
The most brilliant thing that Danny Ainge did was cut bait with that Paul Pierce, Ray Allen, Kevin Garnett team. He cut bait as soon as possible. As soon as he saw that they no longer had a real chance to win a championship, he let those guys go. That was the smartest thing that he did. And he knew from experience playing on that Boston Celtics team of the 80s that the overall sentiment was that they held on to that team for too long. But what really messed them up was that Len Bias was never able to actually become a part of the team. He was supposed to carry the team through the 90s. Larry Bird was on record as stating that had Len Bias paid off, he would have retired probably after the 88 season because his back was hurting him from back then. Due to the fact that Len Bias passed away from a drug overdose, I believe on draft night, Bird played all the way into the early 90s. Now, do I really believe that Bird was going to retire in 88 if Len Bias was the player that they thought he was going to be? No, I don't. I think that he would have tried to play well into the mid-90s, as a matter of fact, because they still would have been championship caliber. A lot of people forget in the late 80s, they brought in Reggie Lewis. They had Brian Shaw. They had a lot of good young players in the late 80s who just needed a great player to lead them. Because Reggie Lewis, before he passed away, for those of you who don't know, Reggie Lewis was one of the top young two guards in the NBA in the late 80s, early 90s. He was heading to the Hall of Fame until he had that issue with the drugs, and he passed away, I believe, from a heart attack.
And he's also at least as smart as any other GM in terms of evaluating talent. So if it's not a good idea to trade for him, chances are Danny Ainge will know that too. He doesn't have a thing to sweat.
I have nothing to add. Bottom line is that Danny Ainge and the Boston Celtics don't need to be fazed by anything the Sixers have because the roster that they have in place doesn't need to be touched. Not even for Kawhi Leonard.
I agree. I think that the Philadelphia 76ers are pretty much in a state of stasis right now because the players that they have pretty much only fit in with their team. And the guys that they have, they're not going to be able to get back a Kawhi Leonard for unless, once again, Colangelo was thinking about moving Joel Embiid for Kawhi Leonard. And let me also state before I let Stephen A. Smith continue, there is some debate over whether or not Reggie Lewis had the heart attack due to drug use. I remember that there was some conjecture about that. He passed away, I believe, in like 92 or 93. And if I remember correctly, one of you brothers can update me or remind me on the exact circumstances, but I believe that he passed out on the court in 92 or 93, and that there was some speculation that it was due to drug use, but that has never been fully verified. Point being is this: the Boston Celtics, they had planned to have Len Bias, Reggie Lewis, Brian Shaw carry them into the 90s, but because of Len Bias dying from a drug overdose, that never came to pass.
You hold on to them for dear life because guess what? Jason Tatum's 19, Jaylen Brown is 21 years of age. Kyrie Irving is 25, Marcus Smart is 23. Look at the squad that you have in place. The only form of trepidation that Danny Ainge absolutely has is that when Kyrie Irving becomes a free agent next summer, he's going to be looking to get paid. He's a champion. He watched guys like Steph Curry sign for $207 million. Russell Westbrook, who doesn't have a title, signed for $217 million. If you're Kyrie Irving, you're looking for comparable dollars. The thing is, if you got Kawhi Leonard, he'd be looking for those dollars himself.
And beyond that, they still have to sign Marcus Smart, who supposedly is going to be asking for somewhere around 16 to 20 million.
So one way or another, you're going to have to pay those kind of dollars. I would say stand pat, because the team that you have in place gels great with one another. Don't mess with it. Don't touch it. Leave it alone. That's what I would say.
That's something else. That is adding something, because that's something else. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying you don't make a move. I'm saying you don't have to sweat another team trying to trade for someone. Because let me tell you something. The Sixers convinced LeBron to sign in Philadelphia, or even Paul George. Yeah, then the Celtics, I think, have to get better. They have to get better. The point is not that they shouldn't make a move at some point. The point is they have more assets to make a move than anyone else, so they don't have to.
I agree. But once again, why is the story even coming out about a trade for Kawhi Leonard to Philadelphia? What was the upper management at Philadelphia trying to say? Because as we all know, their only bankable commodities are Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid. So clearly, one of those two trades would... Their only two bankable commodities are Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid. So clearly, one of those two players would have been involved in a trade for Kawhi Leonard. And as we all know, in the aftermath of the Brian Colangelo scandal, his Twitter scandal, he does not like Joel Embiid. He did not think that Joel Embiid was going to be the future of the franchise.
To sweat someone else targeting a tradable asset.
And let me say this, Joel Embiid is very talented, but he better watch himself, because he's trying a little bit too hard to be a man about town.
Asset like Kawhi, because if they really want Kawhi, they could go get him. But it's not necessarily a bad idea for the Celtics and Danny Ainge to make a move. That's okay. They don't need to stay with this roster. I know Stevens and Hayward have the connection from college and everything, but if Kawhi is available and you can package Hayward and Rozier or Smart for Kawhi, of course you do that.
I have nothing to add.
Sometimes Stephen A. Smith be looking at Max Kellerman like, why the fuck did I hire you? I really can't wait until my contract runs out so I can go back and be with Skip Bayless. Maybe I could form a 3-man group with him and Shannon. Because every day I have to look at your super liberal ass with the audacity, the temerity, the unmitigated gall that you have every day to speak to me as if you know about basketball.
I can sign for a projected 5-year, $219 million supermax extension with San Antonio this summer. Other teams can offer 4 years, $139 million next summer. The Celtics.
But anyway, that's it on that. We'll see what comes of Mr. Kawhi Leonard, Mr. Paul George, and Mr. LeBron James in the offseason. But I think that it's going to be very eventful. The NBA has done a great job of creating an almost soap opera atmosphere about their offseason. It keeps great interest in the league while they're away. And the next thing you know, they're back by November. But anyway, peace.